Hello and welcome back to the Choppers. I'm one of your hosts, Elias.
Hi guys, I'm your host, Emma.
Today we're talking literary conventions in The Wife's Lament and Beowulf.
Beowulf.
Well, call me, oh my god, because I know a thing or two about literary conventions.
Today we had you guys call in and give us some literary conventions to look at. First caller, you're on the line. Which two conventions did you come up with?
We got apposition and understatement.
Huh?
For any of you who don't know, apposition is renaming something for poetic effect, and understatement is downplaying the truth. So you got anything for apposition, Emma?
I sure do. The passage in The Wife's Lament. Here is a gloomy valley, treacherous hills, bitter hedges, briars waxing, overgrown in this house without joy.
That's a great quote, Emma. Can you explain to us how that shows apposition?
The landscape is not necessarily objectively these descriptions, rather she is just projecting her emotions onto the environment. We see this through the dreary word choice of the landscape, so descriptions become a vehicle for sharing emotions with a poetic effect. Specifically, the word overgrown is interesting because it demonstrates not just the vegetation is overgrown, it also alludes to her discontent and constant rumination has become unmanageable. After comes the wording in this house without joy. A house references property, ownership, and where she resides and lives. The without joy tells the reader all this is hers and all that is left is spoiled feelings due to her exile.
I sure don't envy her. Awesome job, Emma. I'll get the next one. Jamie, pull up my quote showing understatement. Perfect. Thanks, Jamie. Friends live on earth, lying in bed with their beloveds, while I, in the time before dawn, alone walk under oak tree.
Sounds like someone needs to pay for this woman's therapy, or she could use the new Exile line from Better Than Saxon, who are sponsoring this episode. Do you want to look so good you can go back to your village again? Exile can make that happen. Use code CHOPPERS for 20% off, and it supports the channel. Thank you to Better Than Saxon for sponsoring us. And back to the podcast. So can you explain the quote for us, Elias?
Of course I can. In this passage, the author is making an understatement about her loneliness. She downplays the true feeling of being exiled alone. The line, while I, in the time before dawn, alone walk under oak tree, doesn't fully encapsulate how lonely she actually feels. The way the author minimizes the true impacts of exile conveys a lot about how it should be handled.
That is really something. Talk about fake it till you make it mindset.
Well, chat, based off these two conventions, we can assume what the text is communicating to the reader. It's not therapy or trauma dumping.
Correct. The author shoots straight and says, "Woe to those that must of longing in life abide." The author basically gives us a 5-minute DIY on how to cope with exile.
Apposition and understatement allow the speaker to embody the paradox of exile. Her suffering is overwhelming, yet her expression remains restrained, reflecting how one should handle exile, through detachment and remain stoic. This is getting a bit too heavy for my taste. Why don't we move on to something a bit more epic? That's right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm talking Beowulf!
Beowulf.
Next caller, you're on the line. What conventions do you want us to cover?
I'd like to hear apposition and understatement. I had the idea first.
Well, you heard him, folks. You want to chime in?
I got one for understatement. It's about the cannibal's mother.
Hold up. Which cannibal are you referring to, Emma?
Grendel.
You need to leave!
The hero observed the swamp thing from hell, the Tarn hag in all her terrible strength. Line 15-18. So in this, Grendel's mother is reduced to Swamp Thing and Tarn Hag, meaning she is not a real threat, downplaying her actual strength and ability to kill people.
Sounds like she doesn't smell very good.
For sure. For sure. This dehumanization creates a gross animalistic hybrid that accentuates Beowulf's superiority as a human and man of battle, since she is portrayed as a thing and not a person who is out for blood after her son's death.
Man of battles and superiority ties into something I have for apposition. Jamie, pull that shit up, please. Thanks, Jamie. On lines 2682 through 2684, it says, "It was never his fortune to be helped in combat by the cutting edge of weapons made of iron."
That's truly exquisite, very elegant. As a battle-centered society, a strong weapon holds a lot of meaning to the characters in Beowulf, and to the ones hearing and reading the story.
The action of defining and renaming a sword as a weapon made of iron builds the sword into something more than a hunk of metal. Since iron is usually strong, this line tells us about their weapons being their strength in battle.
So the weapon is symbolizing themselves and how it's honorable to hold a weapon of such caliber. I wonder what message this is conveying.
Well, in the beginning of the poem, on line 870, it reads, "The man started to recite with skill, rehearsing Beowulf's triumphs and feats in well-fashioned lines, entwining his words."
Sounds like glazing. Is Beowulf really all that?
Well, triumphs and feats is used to describe Beowulf's actions, emphasizing his heroic significance rather than simply listing deeds.
So he is that humble about his honor?
Well, he's very boastful, but he can back it up. It also contains understatement in the phrase well-fashioned lines. The poet downplays the magnitude of Beowulf's accomplishments, making the epic's praise seem measured and elegant.
I see. So together, these conventions show that Beowulf is not only about battles, but also about how heroes are remembered?
Correct. Apposition elevates his deeds into symbols of heroism, while understatement frames them with composure, emphasizing the power of language and reputation to preserve his glory beyond death.
Wow. Beowulf is not only about battles, but also about how heroes are remembered through apposition and understatement. Building him up into a heroic identity emphasizes the power of words and reputations to preserve glory and honor.
Yeah. Wow. All that Beowulf talk has got my stomach roaring like a dragon. I think it's high time we end the episode.
I sure hope no one calls. What do you got for us, caller? Hurry.
Hello, this is Domino's down the street. Hello, I would like to place an order to go and deliver. The guys deliver. Hello, I would like to get a pepperoni pizza. I don't want no pepperoni on it, though. Please don't put pepperoni on it. I guess I want cheese pizza. We got a pineapple there. Pineapple would be good, don't you think? Hello? Hello, I'll do 20-minute delivery free. My baby granddaughter told me I'll do free delivery, and I expect free delivery from y'all hear me?
Oh, you're right. We didn't mention the man price from the Germanic legal code.
Chat might be a little confused. I'll explain man price, which, controversial opinion, we ought to bring back. In Anglo-Saxon culture, when someone was killed, there had to be compensation to the victim's kin in order to prevent a cycle of blood feuds. Man price served as a payment for wrongdoings and as a means to restore family honor. According to the Norton Anthology, Wergild was meant to limit endless revenge, though the duty of vengeance remains central to early medieval culture. Sounds like a sweet deal.
It really does. So, man price does appear in Beowulf, specifically when Grendel's mother seeks revenge after Beowulf kills her son. Again, he is a cannibal. Instead of accepting a man price, she takes vengeance directly, showing how monstrous figures distort human culture codes.
Precisely, Emma. It can be seen in this. Grendel's mother, monstrous hellbride, brooded on her wrongs. She had no man price, no compensation, but only war she demanded. That was on lines 1255 through 1260. This passage highlights the absence of Wergild. Because Grendel is a monster, no compensation can be paid for his death.
Well, that sounds great. And that's about it, chat. In case you guys didn't understand all that academic talk, by looking at acquisition and understatement in both The Wife's Lament and Beowulf, we see how Old English poets used language to express overwhelming grief and legendary heroism. When combined with cultural values like, well, war guild, these texts remind us that exile and glory are two sides of the same struggle. How to live on in memory.
And as always, remember to stay chopped.
Chopped.